So we are back for another acceptable casualties battle report. Today we have 1,500 points of Armored Squadron taking on 1,500 points of Fallschirmjagers. We'll be playing Encounter. Back in a second to go over the lists and deployment. So here we have our 1,500 points of Armored Squadron. Down here I have my 1IC and 2IC both in Shermans. They both have the 50 cal upgrades. Above them, there are two identical platoons of Shermans with one Firefly. The command tank on each platoon has a 50 cal upgrade as well. Over here, there's a third small platoon with the 50 cal upgrade for the command tank and a Firefly attached to it. Above them, we have some universal carriers, just bare bones, MGs, nothing special about them. Over here, we have some dingoes with machine guns. We got them as an extra squad when we purchased the armored cars over here. For them, we have the Piat upgrade for the sawn-off Daimler. So altogether, 1,500 points on the nose. Be back in a second to go over the Fallschirmjager. So here we have our 1,500 points of 6th Fallschirmjager. They are going to be Fearless Vet. Before I forget, the 11th Armored Division that we just went over a second ago, they are going to be Confident Veteran. So up here we have the 1IC and 2IC, both with Panzerfausts, with a Shrek we bought from the HQ section with them. We have two Pack 40s. We have three Flak-Verling 38s. We have Vonderheit with his four Panzerfaust trap teams. Over here we have two LG-40s. We have two MG-42s. The commander has a Faust as well. I just had 5 extra points, so I threw it on there. Down here we have a Pioneer platoon. They're all Tank Assault 4, I think, and the truck upgrade. Vin's going to be running these guys. I don't know if Vin's taken the barbed wire minefields yet. Over here we have the Heavy Mortar platoon with 2 observers. And then we have 2 identical platoons of Fallschirmjagers, 6 bases with the command teams. Each command team has Panzerfausts. I believe this comes in at like 1495 or so. So we'll be back in a second after we roll off to see who's deploying where, and we'll be back in flesh. So we are back for deployment. I'll go over Vin first because he ended up winning the roll off. So we have one of my objectives are down here on the road. The second objective is over here on the river. We're playing the little crossings and the bridge. You can just kind of go over slow going except for the bridge, and then everything else is just going to be like a bog test. We have another Vin's objective is up there, and his second objective is going to be placed over there. For Vin's deployment, he took the Pack 40s, placed them inside the woods right here. That's Vonderheit down there behind them. Up over here, Vin has his Pioneers. Is that the 2IC right here, Vin?
Yeah.
All right, 2IC's on that objective. He has the Pioneer supply wagon down here. Over here is his first platoon of Fallschirmjager. His 1IC is right here. And then he has his heavy mortars over here on the table. Vin has his other observer is right there. And your second, which other observer?
Right over here.
Right over here, okay. And his second observer for the mortars is down here. For his reserves, he left over 1 unit of the Fallschirmjagers, the Flak-Verling 38s. Those are his Faust teams, the LG-40s, and the MG-42s. So that's his deployment. And he also put the minefield from the paddy wagon up over here in between the 2 woods right here, placed perfectly. Should have set this table up a little bit differently. So for my deployment, I have one of my platoons over here of the Shermans. The second platoon is dead smack in the middle of the table. I have my 1IC hanging out over here. And then over here, I have my universal carriers, and my 2IC is up over there. For my reserves, I have my armored cars, my dingoes, and then the small platoon of Shermans. For this game, Vin has delayed reserves. I have scattered reserves. Well, we both have scattered reserves. I don't know. You know, we'll play it delayed because it says delayed and scattered in the rule for encounter. I forgot how this goes. So, you know what we're going to do? We'll play both sides delayed, both sides scattered. And we'll just go with it like that. So we'll be back in the flash. Vin ended up rolling first, rolling the higher die, so he's going to go first. So we'll be back in the flash with the recap for top turn 1. So we are back for top of turn one for the Fallschirmjager. This turn, Vin literally just kind of went down the line and just dug everybody in. Everybody went on the ground. No firing at all this turn because Vin can't fire the bombardment because it's the encounter. What is it called? Media engagement? Yeah, media engagement. Yeah, so no bombardments because they count as moving. And the Pack 40s over here were just kind of out of range of my one IC up the line over there. So that's all happening here for top turn one. We'll be back in a second for bottom of turn one for the Brits. So we are back for the bottom of turn one for the Brits. In this turn, since Vin was dug in and gone on the ground, it was pretty much all about positioning. So with this Sherman platoon up here, I pushed up to the back side of the hill over there and kind of got tucked in pretty tight so the Pack 40s can't really get a beat on me. Up over here, I made a push up into the middle of the road on that side and kind of just set up shop over there. Still in range of the Pack 40s. I couldn't get a shot off on Vin because Doug and gone aground outside of 16 and they're vets. So I needed 7, so that wasn't going to happen. Back over here with my universal carriers, I pushed them up at the double on this side with the 2IC as well and kind of positioned them pretty aggressively up on Vin's flank on this side. So that's what we're looking at here for the bottom of turn one for the Brits. We'll be back in a second for Fallschirmjager, top of turn two. So we are back for the top of turn two for the Fallschirmjagers. In this turn, all the infantry stayed dug in, gone on the ground. The Pack 40 right here, he opened up. He had 2 shots down there. Vin rolled a 5 and a 6. I biffed both of my saves. Vin hit both of his firepower, so he blew up the Firefly and the extra Sherman tank attached to that platoon over there. So they're just down to 2 tanks and my 1 IC attached with them. Over here on this side, Vin fired a bombardment with the heavy mortars over here on the universal carriers. He ranged in, got 2 hits, and I made both saves with the universal carriers, so they ended up walking out of this one okay. So that's pretty much all that happened here for the top of turn two. We'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn two for the Brits. So we are back for the bottom of turn two for the Brits. On this turn, we ended up pushing up our Sherman platoon up over the top of the hill for the movement phase. Back over here, we pushed up our 2 Shermans over here to the lip of the river, and we took our 1 IC and we set him up on top of the bridge over there. Down here, we kind of just strung out our universal carriers, try to get in like machine gun range, and then we took our 2 IC and pushed them back along the side of the forest right over there. In the shooting phase, it wasn't really good shooting all around. So the machine guns from the universal carriers fired down the mortars. I got 3 hits. Vin failed 2 saves, but I couldn't dig anybody out with firepower tests. With the tank over here, I fired a bunch of machine gun shots into the observer. I think 1 got through, failed firepower on that one as well. Up over here, I fired 3 cannon shots down to the mortars down here. I got no hits on that. And then back up over here, I fired a bunch of machine gun fire into the Pack 40 that was here. Couldn't pin him, went in for the assault. Vin got 1 hit, blew up my Firefly, and then we killed the Pack 40 in close combat. Since Vin really couldn't do anything, he had elected to move back the Pack 40 to over here, and then I just kind of pushed myself up around the other side over there in front of those Pioneers. So this is what we're looking at here for the bottom of turn two. We'll be back in a second for the top of turn three. We got reserves coming in as well, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn three for the Fallschirmjager. Vin did get his LG40s to come in down over here in the movement phase. He ended up just falling back with that Pack 40 around the bend over there. It really didn't move anybody else. He did pop his trap teams, all 4 of them along the tree line right here. So in the shooting phase, the LG40s were able to blow up one of the Shermans, and then after that, Vin had 3 of these guys that were in range. He rolled triple ones, so nobody was able to hit those guys. Back over here, Vin dropped a bombardment on these Shermans that were there. He was able to bail 1, forced a motivation test. I failed with a roll of a 2. I had the 1 IC there. Figured I'd have to keep them on the table. I'd have to do something. So I ended up failing to keep them on the table. So 1 IC is off, and that Sherman platoon is off as well. So that's pretty much all that happened. He elected to stay gone to ground with everything else that was left on the table. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 3 for the 11th Armored. So we are back for the bottom of turn 3 for the British 11th Armor. I did not get my reserves to come in this turn. With the 2 Shermans, I pushed them up over here to this side to kind of get them out of the way, the LG40s and that Pack 40. And then in the movement phase over here, I stay still with my Universal Carriers, but I pushed up my 2IC over there on that flank. In the shooting phase, Universal Carriers opened up on the mortars. I had 5 hits with the machine guns. Vin failed 3 saves, and then I rolled 3 6s to pluck all the mortars out, and then Vin failed his motivation, so they ended up leaving. And then the 2IC over here, I fired a couple more shots into him, but he really didn't do anything. Up over here with the 2 Shermans, I fired a bunch of shots down into the Pioneers. That's really the only option I had at this point, and I ended up getting 2 hits, but Vin made both of his saves. So that's what really all that happened here for the bottom of turn 3. We're going to be back in a second for top of turn 4 for the Fallschirmjager. So we are back for the top of turn 4. Oh man, if you guys could have been here to see this, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. So in the
my honesty.
so in the movement phase, Vin ended up not getting a shot with the LG40, so he kind of just pushed them up along the edge over here. He pulled the Pack 40 along out in the open over here, and then his Pioneers he pushed up over there. He ended up staying on the ground over here with these guys. In the shooting phase, Vin fired the Pack 40 up into the tanks. He missed with the Faust teams. Like I said, he just moved over here with the Stormtrooper move as well. That's pretty much all the shooting that happened. So with his Pioneers, Vin moved up, got within assault distance, charged, and then in close combat, Vin got like 6 hits, blew up both my tanks, and then Mr. Honesty decided to show up, and Vin told me he forgot to roll his tank terror to get the assault off, so he rolled a 1, and then I took the smoke off the tanks, and then Vin moved back to here. So I appreciate the honesty. So that worked out pretty well for me. Just to rub it in his face, I did roll the company command check because I would have had 1 platoon left. I ended up passing, so it wouldn't really matter. But yeah, so all for naught. It was a lot of damage that we had to pull off the table, so it was pretty funny. But that's all that happened here for the top of turn 4. Vin also failed both of his reserve rolls. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 4 for the 11th Armor. Hopefully I can get at least a platoon on the table here. I really need some backup because this is getting ugly. So we'll be back in a flash.
Jump on it.
So we are back for the top of turn 4, and yeah, dude, I boned it on this one. So in the movement phase, I scooted back the Shermans over here because it was just getting a little bit too hot over there. And then on this side, I ended up staying put. With this Universal Carrier here, I used my eyes and ears. I pulled gun on the ground off of the Fallschirmjagers over here with some machine gun fire from the 2 other Universal Carriers and then the Sherman. I was able to get 3 hits, but Vin made all of his saves with these guys down here. So good for you, Vin. And then back over here with the 2 Shermans, I fired 2 cannon shots down here, needing 5s into the Pack 40. I ended up missing on both of those, and I biffed on my reserve roll. So this isn't good. So yeah, this is going to be a rough turn. So we'll be back in a second with top of turn 5 for the Jaegers. It's there for the taking, Vin. So if you want it, come and get it. We are back for the top of turn 4 for the Fallschirmjagers. Pretty decent turn for Vin. We'll see how decent it is in a moment. So Vin was able to get on his flak veerlings, the 38s down here. He rolled for the random deployment, and obviously they came in off that bottom corner right there, which was kind of totally out of the way of where he needed them, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. In the movement phase, Vin pushed up his LG40s, pushed up his Pioneers, camped all the Shreks around the objective over here, and then these guys went back to gun on the ground. They didn't shoot. In the shooting phase, the Pack 40 fired 2 shots into the Shermans that were over there. He ended up blowing up 1. I failed my motivation at the end of the shooting phase, so they ended up breaking. What we're looking at right now is 1 platoon on the table. So I got to do my company command check because everybody else and their mother is parked over there in reserves. So 4 up.
Let me hold the camera.
No, you're not holding the camera. Oh my God, please. Please. Oh, son of a bitch. Game over. Victory Fallschirmjagers. Vin, it was a pleasure. We'll be back in a second to go over the end of game recap. So we are back here for the end of game recap. This was actually a pretty quick one today. So I'll go over what I was thinking first, and then we'll roll in what Vin was thinking as usual. So over here, I had that platoon of Shermans up on this side. This kind of worked out exactly the way that I wanted it. I wanted to push these guys up on the edge of the hill and then make an assault in there on that second turn. We were able to take out that one Pack 40 pretty early on, but wasn't really able to capitalize and do anything past that, which is kind of unfortunate. And then getting those guys strung out over here with only 2 tanks after the ambush pop for the Fausts, and I lost that one guy in defensive fire. With just the 2 tanks there facing down against the Pack 40 and then that Pioneer plus all 4 of those Faust teams, I really wasn't too motivated to push those guys into that section of the table. Back up over here, what I was thinking with these guys was I wanted to shoot them across the table and kind of get them positioned up over here to give them a support base to fire down here at the mortars and these guys, and then eventually push and make a play on the objective. That's what I wanted to do, was make a push on this objective. But losing those 2 tanks on bad dice early on, well, good dice for Vin, and then I totally sucked on the saves for them. That didn't work too well, and then getting bailed out by the mortars over here along that bridge, and then failing the motivations, both motivations. I don't think I passed a motivation this entire game.
Yeah, I think you rolled a 2 every single time.
Yeah, so every motivation was a 2. So yeah, so not very good dice for me. So yeah, that kind of killed me, losing these guys that early in the middle of the table, because these guys, they did exactly what I wanted to do. I had them spread out over here to take the ambush away from Vin and No Man's Land, which would have been up there and down here, so we couldn't have put the trap teams anywhere. And then the 2IC kind of tucking him back around over here. The whole idea is getting them over here was to take out the mortars, which they did, and then I wanted to get a 2-pronged assault between the tank company up the middle and these guys making a push on the Jaegers over here. But once that middle crumbled, I had no reserves come in either. So this unsupported with just the universal carriers and the 2IC, I don't think they weren't going to be able to punch through these Jaegers over here. So that was kind of a lost cause. But yeah, pretty good game for Vin with the Jaegers. They played really well. But I don't know, Vin, what were you looking at for as far as your defensive setup went?
Off the bat, I think I got lucky because my initial plan was to obviously pop these guys over here to take out the middle.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to end up doing. Well, at least half of them was to put them over there.
But when I realized they were just like kind of whittled down that much, I just took my chances with obviously
the mortar
going in there, which worked out. But this is where I was saying I got lucky. So, well, yeah, I got lucky because I had these guys and them, and I expected them to obviously be on there when they did, like to get on. And, on a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6.
Oh, yeah, you would have been...
Yeah, I would have had all the support I needed over here to hold off whatever you had coming at me, but they kept coming up over there.
Yeah, so on the back corner over here.
So I was totally regretting bringing these guys over to this side. But the next round, when I was going to get my next guys, I was going to bring in these guys over here anyway and just have like a big wall of just waiting for all that to attack and then rush my Pioneers up the front.
Yeah, I think once the middle crumbled, you had so much on the table.
Yeah, it was just kind of.
I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough on the table to answer that. Especially, like I said, you had 3 full infantry platoons. You still had some support fire with that Pack 40. Yeah, you were in pretty good shape, especially with those Pioneers. I only had 1 tank over there. Even if the armored cars, the other platoon would have came in, it still would have been really tough taking those guys out. And then after whatever casualties would have been inflicted, I don't know if I would have had enough to even push up and take these objectives. I think the defensive capabilities of the Jaegers, especially with those trap teams, it's really tough for a tank list, especially a tank list that only has like 10 tanks in it.
Yeah.
To make a punch in here like it did. I didn't have anything once I got halfway across that table, and having the delayed reserves as well. Matched up with you. Yeah, it's not well, especially for like a tank list. Having delayed reserves isn't that good because you have so many points soaked in to just a couple platoons.
Tell me about it with all my half tracks and.
So good game. It's a lot of fun. I wish I could get the Jaegers out on the table more. I like seeing these guys out here. Hopefully Vin will build an allied army sooner or later so I can start playing with them a little bit.
Yeah.
Or we get some games against Neil. But yeah, fun game, good game. We'll be back again next week. Do it again. Thanks for watching.